So let him continue to be that way. At least I know he's passionate. He loves
Dr.
the Celtics.
J, Dr. J, cut the crap. We know what's going on here. It's Peter Lawwell's Fenionisation of the First Division. He's sending Griffiths there, like we suggested, to make sure the Huns die. It's
Listen, from what
Griff.
I've read, they're doing it all on their own. They don't need Peter Lawwell's help. But you know what, though? Let me tell you something. Here's something hilarious. Going back to my tweets of the week. If we go forward, tweets of the week, you ready?
All right, do it.
One of the best tweets of the week were this. Remember we had the issue with Guidetti and we were like late getting him, and
Yeah,
the Huns are going crazy. Oh my God! It's so unfair. You had the issue with registration before against Warsaw, and then all of a sudden you have this, and it's okay now. One of the best tweets I saw, and I don't remember who it was, and I apologize if you did it. Just tweet me, and I'll say it, and I'll give you credit. It's just like this. Celtic get Guidetti after Peter Lawwell of Celtic wrote to Peter Lawwell of the SFA, who wrote to Peter Lawwell of UEFA.
yeah, yeah. I love it. I
The
love it.
unseen Fenian hand.
The Inconvenient Hand. He's
Which was funny because a couple days later, a couple days earlier, they were complaining, and one of the other tweets I thought was absolutely hilarious. It was something like, it was at Grant Call. He said, "Sky reporters are better off setting up outside of Lawwell's house tonight because at roughly 11, that's where all the fans will be." And I think that was before we got Skopovic and Guidetti. That was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
it was one of those ones where like you get winners and losers on transfer deadline days, and I think that we lucked out. The only negative at the transfer deadline day was obviously not getting Guidetti for the Europa League. Actually, two negatives. We didn't get rid of Bo Richter either. So, yeah, I would have taken a fish supper if someone offered us a fish supper for Bo Richter. He's just a fucking midden of a
Yeah,
player.
exactly. Now, here's what's interesting. What did you think of Skopovic saying that he always wanted to go to Celtic, he didn't want to go to Getafe? What'd you think of that?
This is what I think. It doesn't matter if it's true or false, he said the right thing. You don't kiss the badge and say that you've always been a Celtic supporter. Don't do that. That's stupid. Don't be blasé about it, because if the fans are going to hate you for that, you come in and be professional. What professional is, you say, did you always want to come here? Yes. The answer is yes. It doesn't matter how you brush it up, you say yes. You say, what was the issue? You say, I don't know what the issue was. It was technical, blah, blah, blah. We don't know the situation, so let's not pretend. It looks like he was probably being offered Getafe. Like we've said in the show before, if you got offered a gig in Spain, you might as well stay in Spain. He's got no loyalty to Celtic or anyone else. He just goes to where the best option is for him. And if that's a Spanish club, then right, fair play to him. That didn't work out, and he's here. This concept of, I've heard people say, oh, I think he should just fuck off now if he didn't want to come to us. It's like, sorry, wait, we've grown up with, like, well, I grew up, you've obviously got into it in the last few years, where we've got green tinted specs where we think the world revolves around Celtic. Newsflash, it doesn't. Not everyone in the world is sitting there. There's not kids in Rio de Janeiro going like, "Oh, when I grow up, I can't wait to play for Celtic. They're such a big
Really?
club." No, it
Really?
doesn't happen.
No?
I'm going to break that horrible bit news to everybody. So you know what? A Serbian guy who's playing in Spain decides to come to us after another deal falls through. You know what? I'm happy with that. And he said all the right things. He wasn't disrespectful. The press conference was sullen. They kept on going on about the guy. Did you watch the press conference with it, how many
I did.
times he was
I
asked
did.
about it? How many times they twisted it to try and make him say something stupid, and he just
And he
stuck
finally
to
came
it.
out and said, "You show me where I said that."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So right, he was professional about it. Good for the lad. Guidetti, everything he said about coming to the club, he sounds like a Tim. He just sounds like a Tim going on about Larson and all that. So I'm happy with that. Don't know a lot about Tonev coming to the club. With Sacco, watched his news conference. He kind of reminds me. A lot of the African players that I've came across have always been very they always seem very polite, the African players. Like Wanyama was very polite about us, and like they always seem like really keen, they're really respectful of the club. And he said all the right things. And he said that in Africa, I watched Celtic when I was younger. May or may not be true, but it's a nice thing to say. He seems to know the prestige of the club and saying we're a huge club, and just again saying all the right things. Did he make any headlines or say anything really that interesting? Not really, but you know he showed all those players showed respect coming to the club, and there's no harm done in any of their press conference. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the temperament of the players, and hopefully quite happy with the quality of them as well. So fingers crossed for these guys, and
Yeah,
I
maybe
think it's a good
maybe
bit of
maybe we
business.
get some rain and we grow corn this year.
Have you seen the film Draft Day with Kevin Costner yet? Yeah, it kind of reminded me a bit of that, where like he thinks, if you've not seen the movie, it's a B movie, it's alright, like, but it's NFL draft. Kevin Costner's the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and it's all about him getting the right players in and choosing the right players, and etc. etc. And at one point, it looks like he's completely fucked it up and just ruined everything, and then suddenly at the last minute, I'd hate to spoil the film for you, he brings it all round, and everything's right in the end. And to be honest with you, I think that was the case. I think that once we locked down Guidetti, I think we can call that transfer window a success so far. But I know a lot of other people say, oh, but we made this amount of money and we should have spent more. Well, at the moment we've got a situation where we can't figure out on paper what players are going to get in our starting 11. And I don't know, that's quite a good position to be in. So I think if you threw another 10 million quid in there, you'd still have the same situation, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
so...
if we had done that 10 million quid before, then yeah. But you mentioned draft day, and I have to laugh. I have a Twitter friend, Brian Flanagan, who's an absolute, for whatever reason in the world, a Cleveland Browns fan. And if you remember the movie, that's what it's about. And it's funny you say that, because draft day, that's what it's about. There's a big difference, though, and I think the difference between draft day and what we're talking about here is the Browns have zero recent credibility to do anything correctly except step on their dick with golf shoes on. After that, there's nothing else that they've got going for them. And here, it almost like we're the reverse draft day. We have this great set of everything else, and we keep bringing in these shit players. And, it just drives me crazy. And there's winning that can be had that should be there. And it's almost like we're snatching defeat from the jaws of victory by who we brought into the team. So, it's almost reverse draft day. And now it seems like we're just beginning. Hopefully, we're beginning to change that boat around. But it's one of those things that I'd love for these guys to come good, for it to rain on our crops, on our seeds. Let them sow. Let them go ahead and grow. Let's go ahead and bring some people in. I'd love to see. I mean, from what I understand, I have a couple friends who were Ghanaian fans, and we all saw what happened in the World Cup. But this Mikasa guy, he can absolutely fly. Also,
cliche thing of the YouTube, he looks absolutely rapid. I think one of his goals, he shoots from about 35 yards and puts it in off the bar. So
you know what else you said that was interesting. You said that newsflash, the football world doesn't revolve around us. I find that funny because one of the other tweets that I saw that was really, really interesting came from Joe Ruddy, who does some CQN stuff. And what he had said was, Stefan Skopovic now wants to sign for Celtic as Getafe aren't offering enough. It's a shame we aren't in a position to tell him to jog on.
Oh, wait. I thought Frankie Boyle thought we were dicks for saying that.
I don't know. I guess so. I mean, it is what it is. And he said jog on. So I said that for two reasons. Obviously jog on, but also that he had said that. But it's one of those things that I'm not quite, it's okay that someone, was trying to get the best for what they're doing. These guys have careers of, 8, 9, 10 years if they're lucky. After that, you make fun of them because they're washed up footballers. They need their money. They need to make their money, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way, right? I'm a Scottish guy, right? Imagine if I was in the middle of Canada playing in some or the MLS league. Actually, MLS is a bad example. Imagine I was somehow a baseball player in North America. I've got no affiliation to any club in North America. Who am I going to go to? The guys that pay me the most and seem the best option for me getting a game. Of course, don't be stupid. This romantic idea that people kiss the badge. Do you really want to be these delusionals, like these Huns that like Nacho Novo coming out? Oh, I always supported Rangers when I was in Spain as a kid, kissing the badge and wearing orange boots. I'm glad that none of these players patronised us with any pish. They just came out, said exactly what they should have said. Hopefully they're going to be a success, and also they didn't overhype themselves. They just went through.
I'm with you.
Yeah, don't overhype.
I'm with you. I think it's crazy to say that too bad we can't tell them to get lost. I mean, obviously if the guy turns around and turns out to score a winner to get us to a final or a semifinal round, semifinal tie, it'll all be forgotten.
Yeah. Well,
no one's going to remember that he couldn't tell which way he wanted to go first. And don't forget, you can't say that because and then be all happy that Commons is here because he did the same thing to Rangers. Remember when Commons was coming up from Derby?
I can't remember Commons going to Rangers. I
Yeah.
remember when John Hartson had a medical at Ibrox.
No,
Uh,
Commons was between the two, and we stepped in and get off the same money, but offered him more money, from what I remember.
is that right? I honestly can't remember that, to be honest with you, but fair play, whatever. Aye, and Commons has obviously turned into a bit of a Celtic man since he's came up here, so fair play. Wasako, just going back to his press conference while we're on concept or the conversation of press conferences, they said to him, "Are you going to score goals when you're here?" And he just automatically said, "No, I'm not that type of player. I create goals. I'm a winger. I bring other people into play, and that's why I play." So I think it's great to have a little bit of honesty out of players about trying to spell out to the fans exactly the type of player they are. Actually really liked. He just seemed like a really nice guy with Sacco. He came across with a nice bit of personality. Hopefully he's going to turn out all right. Hopefully Tonev. Horrible accusations in the paper right now about Tonev potentially racially abusing a player at Aberdeen. Hopefully this is absolute nonsense and just more paper pish about football players Celtic, just to try and get a few headlines, because that's never good to hear about.
There's actually exclusive that I just read that just posted about 20 minutes ago that says there's a lack of TV evidence to support the claim.
Right. Well, I think as a podcast we can say innocent until proven guilty on that one. Obviously,
Yes,
don't like to hear that sort of thing at all.
I hope so. Yes, I hope
yeah,
it's totally not true.
that's cool.
Totally.
But yeah, I think like everybody, all the new signings definitely got pass marks anyway. And I joked as soon as Guidetti came on. They're like, the guys in the pub shouted, "Oh, you better get a goal." And I said, "No, it's bad luck to get a goal. Don't, because like Pookie and then like Bo Richter having a good 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want a
All
flat.
scored early too.
Who else? Sorry.
Aldi scored early too.
Oh, Baldy early as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want get your debut out the way, just go and don't do anything stupid. Just have a good like 60 minutes or 90 minutes.
Don't blow out your ankle on 35 minutes.
Yeah, just a quietly confident debut. So I'll have that from all those players. So yeah, I think.
Listen. We mentioned Pookie. Let me ask you real quick. Let me get in. I had some jog on Yaldis for you for Pookie. You ready?
Okay, go.
All right, you ready? Pookie's comments about the SPFL being a weak league. Jog
Right.
on or Yaldis?
See, to be honest with you, whenever I hear quotes like that, I always think it's always difficult to see if the player's actually said it or if the newspaper have just kind of put those words into his mouth. If he genuinely was on tape or on like video camera saying that, I think he's really kidding himself on. I don't think there's absolutely anything he can really come out and say to make those statements or have any conviction in saying it, because he was fairly appalling when he played for Celtic. He also was from Finland, and the Finnish league isn't very good at all. And he's went to Bromby, who are Danish, and the Danish league's not very good either. So I think what he could say is, I was disappointed by the quality. I thought it would be better, but to say it's rubbish or of poor standard would be pretty stupid when you hardly set the heather on fire. So that can jog on. That can absolutely jog on. However,
Well, I mean, I
if he
would
actually
agree with
said it
this.
or not.
Yes, he's weak. Yes, the league is weak, but he's weaker because he didn't score worth a shit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly it. But shall we talk a little bit about Aberdeen, and we'll go back onto Jogon and Yaldo later on.
Go ahead.
So we got a 2-1 win, 2-1 win against probably our title challengers. We had our debuts, like we were saying, pass marks for all the new guys. Bruni's back. What'd you make of Bruni?
You know what? I have a question for you.
Wit.
The question is this: he was hailed as a new signing, which I want to say that I don't buy that either.
I cringed when I heard that.
Seething.
I cringed when I
I
heard
can hear
that.
you seething on the inside. But let me ask you this: do we rely on him too much at 29?
I think that it's going to be difficult to go out and buy a player who gives you the work rate of Scott Brown. So
You're not going to get someone like him for 5.5 million again, are you?
nope. I think it's going to be very difficult to replace a guy. So it's kind of hard where you know more about his injury conditions than I do. As a chiropractor, I mean, you tell me. From what we gather, he's not going to be offered a new contract. That is the rumours of everybody that's telling us, and all our contacts that are kind of friends of the show and in the Twitterverse of Celtic are saying that that's the case. I like the guy. I'd like to see him in a new contract. I could think you could justify the money and say that he's a captain of the club. Maybe pay a little bit extra for him. If other players complain, just say, well, he's a club captain. However, because he misses so many games, is he really worth the 30 grand a week that he's on, or whatever the money is at the moment? It's difficult,
I
but
mean, listen. This is one of the times that we were talking about earlier